Today we're going to be talking about the Pennsylvania Senate election in 2018. So this one has been pretty much rated either leaning or likely blue by many pollsters, but this one should be pretty fun to watch, to say the least. I'm not saying it's going to be close, and there's probably going to be a clear winner based off multiple reasons by the end of this video, but just looking at this state, it's a state that Donald Trump carried very narrowly by rounded down 40,000 votes in 2016, less than a couple percentage points, and it was completely different than what most people expected. I don't think anyone expected Trump to win the state of Pennsylvania other than a few either Trump fans or people that were very good at analyzing how people would vote. But, all the polls indicated a Clinton victory, and, they held the DNC in Pennsylvania. So out of everything, it should have been a Democratic state for more than 25 years. Yet it didn't vote for someone like John McCain or Mitt Romney, but voted for Donald Trump, which was something that surprised many people. So the state of Pennsylvania is probably going to be in the spotlight when we're talking about a blue wave. Democrats are going to turn to it and say, hey, typically we don't do well in primary turnout, which they did in this scenario. We'll talk about it in a minute. And then they're going to be pointing to it because Democrats are probably going to win here nearing double digits or even double digits. And it's going to be something that will make the Democratic Party inspired for 2020. Obviously not for 2018 because the election coincides with all the other elections, but it will just be there to show that Democrats do have holding in the Rust Belt. Regardless of how popular this incumbent is, it won't make a difference on how the Democrats will throw this into the media and say Democrats are in the lead, and people are just going to perceive it as a Rust Belt turning back to the Democrats. So clearly that may not be the case, but it's going to be something that's going to be in the media after 2018. So I'm going to start off this video by telling you who I think will win. I think Bob Casey is easily going to win the United States Senate race here for multiple reasons, which we'll get throughout the video. So we're taking a look at the primary. Donald Trump easily dominated the 2016 primary in the state of Pennsylvania. The map does not correlate with what we saw in the GOP primary. It shouldn't have been this close. It should have been a blowout for Lou Barletta, but it wasn't. And, Donald Trump was a different type of candidate. Lou Barletta is no Donald Trump. There is clearly no way in how they can either compare one another. Donald Trump being an expert at rallying out, bringing out his people, getting them out to vote, he's been amazing at that. You have to give him that. I mean, the man is inspiring to his own people. And when it comes to the Republican primary, neither of these candidates were too inspiring for either of their bases. Yes, they were able to one candidate was able to get a significant majority of the GOP voters, but it's not enough to show that there's someone that clearly represents all the members of the GOP. So if we're talking about Allegheny County, which is home to Pittsburgh, why didn't it vote with Philadelphia County? That's something that people are going to be asking. Why didn't Philadelphia County vote with Erie County? Okay, Erie County is pointed to as one of the turning points when it comes to a presidential election in the state of Pennsylvania. It was looked to in 2016, looked to in 2012, looked to in 2008 for a winner, and Erie County has pretty much almost a lot of the time has voted with the winner of the state. And if the GOP base isn't agreeing in these densely populated areas, that's something that's really going to hurt them, because the urban areas are where the GOP does worst. And if they're not holding on to their voters in the most populated areas, then it's going to be something that's going to be really difficult for them to win. Okay, Lou Barletta can easily win almost all of the counties in Pennsylvania and still lose the election just because of these population centers. If you look at the number of precincts over here, 42 compared to 1,661. Okay, it's not comparable whatsoever. And let's take a look at the primary turnout. So 681,000 votes, and if we actually go to the Wikipedia page and go down to up to the Democrats, 743,000 for the Democrats. Okay, in 2016, there were more Democrats than Republicans, but, typically it's not like that. I mean, there are more Republican voters nationwide that come out and vote in primaries just because they're more excited. So primary turnout is consistent with 2016. 2016 didn't turn out well for Democrats, but it got them a little bit closer. And we're going to talk about popularity in just a second. Donald Trump's popularity in this state is pretty low. So right now he has a 42% approval rating in Pennsylvania compared to Bob Casey, the incumbent, with 43%. Not that much of a difference, but if you look at the disapproval rating, that's where it makes up for it. 32% disapproval rating for Senator Bob Casey, 53% disapproval rating for the president. If it's a state that comes out and votes against the president, it's going to be Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, or Michigan. And, all three of them have Democratic incumbents up in 2018. So we're going to see a lot of backlash from a lot of these people that oppose the president but don't necessarily oppose this Democratic senator. They may be Republicans, but they may also be opposed to the president. Donald Trump can't win with these numbers in 2020. He's not going to win re-election with these numbers. There's a difference between an approval rating before the presidency and during, because a lot of people pointed to the approval rating polls of Donald Trump in 2016. Well, clearly America was given two horrible candidates. We were given two people that were clearly unpopular when it comes to the national stage, both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Obviously, one of them is going to win because they're both unpopular. Obviously, an unpopular candidate is going to win. There's a difference. He's president now. A lot more things are on him. I know a lot of people, the media isn't going to be as lenient, and I know that sounds crazy. I mean, the media is constantly talking about the president, but in 2016, they were a lot more lenient on the president. I mean, Hillary Clinton was constantly mentioned with her email scandal, which turned out to be nothing. The Benghazi scandal that turned out to be nothing. A lot of the things, bringing back the James Comey letter, they spent so much time on that. And if you compare it to the Trump tapes, obviously, the Hollywood Access tape, the numbers of media coverage are incomparable. And it's just because Hillary Clinton was in the national news media for a very long time, more than 25 years in the front of the national stage. And yes, that's partially her fault, and it's partially the fact that Donald Trump wasn't a politician. But you can't say that Donald Trump was bashed more by the media than Hillary Clinton, because a lot of you perceive it that way. Because when you see media about Donald Trump, it's typically negative because he's doing negative things. You can't blame the media for reporting what's there. If he does something stupid, they're going to say he did something stupid. Maybe they'll spin it in their favor just a little bit, but there isn't some mass conspiracy against the president that the entire media is in a complete liberal bias, that conservatives have no chance to speak. Because if you look at every time that most conservatives that support the president, they always turn it into something else. I was watching a couple segments from multiple news media outlets, and when it comes on a Trump supporting conservative, they typically talk about people like Hillary Clinton. It was recently on CNN, actually. A lot of you are going to say, oh, that's fake news, but I know I'm getting a little bit off track here, but the point needs to be made. There is no mass conspiracy against the president. The president is just doing wrong things. I mean, pardoning Joe Arpaio, that was horrible. A lot of you defend that point because it is the president, but if it was done by someone like Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton, you would be the first people to scrutinize them. There is such a double standard held by both political parties, but clearly there is one in power now, and that is the Republican Party, which is why I'm calling them out on it now. Yes, I would call out the Democratic Party. I'm not biased towards the Democratic Party. Yes, I do have a biased human endeavor. We are taking part in a human endeavor. There's going to be an inherent bias somewhere. Nobody is unbiased. And when it comes to looking at which political party is spinning the national news media, okay, yes, Democrats are a little bit laid back when it comes to coverage by the media, but it's not some big alt-left conspiracy against the president trying to make him look bad. It's just he's doing things that are giving him a negative view, and that's why it's reflecting in almost all his opinion polls. He's above 50% in 12 states out of 50. Keep in mind, he won over 25 states. That's not enough to win the election in 2020. And when we're talking about key races like Pennsylvania, which he narrowly won, and we see numbers from 2012 with Barack Obama on the ballot, 52% to 46%. And then we go all the way back to not all the way back, but recently 2016, Trump didn't even win over 50%. So clearly there was a gap. And a number of third-party voters did take away from Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. But it's, when we're looking at the numbers, clearly Democrats do better in the state of Pennsylvania when they do win the state. So Barack Obama did better than Donald Trump, and it's probably because a lot of people in Pennsylvania negatively view the president, but they were able to vote for him because they viewed Hillary Clinton even more negative. But if a candidate like Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders comes around, keep in mind these states are probably going to be safe or likely for them. So when we're talking about a Senate race that's hotly contested, if you have a popular senator, Bob Casey being one, 11-point difference between his approval and disapproval rating, which is amazing for him. He's probably going to easily win the Senate race. And looking at primary turnout, yes, it reflects a little bit of what we saw in 2016, but the excitement is definitely on the Democratic side. We see it with Senator Bob Casey, and especially when we're looking at the opinion polls between the two candidates. See likely Democrat by Cook Political Report, Inside Election, Sabato Cristobal, likely Democrat. This is a state that was a toss-up or leaning Democrat in 2016, narrowly went to Donald Trump. We're not going to see a repeat of that. Looking at these numbers, Bob Casey wins over Lou Barletta by double digits in almost every poll except for the first one taken, which was taken from February 12th to March 5th, and now we have some more updated ones from April 4th to 12th that show a double-digit lead. Yes, he's still scoring under 50% in both of the polls that are recent. However, he just needs to gain over a little bit of the undecided voters or a little bit of the other voters. You take 2.1% from the other, and he wins the election. You take 2.1% from the undecided, and he wins the election. Lou Barletta is going to do a lot more work and going to have to do a lot more work if he wants any chance at winning this election. And the generic Democrat versus generic Republican poll still shows a Democrat in the lead, and even against the other GOP candidate, Bob Casey, still clearly leads. And Again, looking at the primary, not necessarily the most unified GOP. There are certainly parts of the state where Barletta did extremely well, and then Christiana did a much better in other parts of the state. The population centers aren't adding up, and that's not good. If we take a closer look at 2012, which I was talking about a moment ago, let's take a look at the presidential results. So a little bit more red than the Senate results, and that's mainly because senators typically do better when they are the incumbent and it comes to a toss-up state. So Bob Casey, the incumbent, got a lot more blue. Not a lot more, but a little bit more blue than Barack Obama, and that's good for him. There are some counties that probably got a little bit more Republican with Bob Casey on the ballot, but a lot of them got more Democratic. And when we're looking at the map for 2018, we're going to have to take a look and say, well, where can Bob Casey expand? Right now, he's leading Lou Barletta, I believe, in the last poll that was taken, by 16%. Barletta's going to have to do a hell of a lot of work if he wants to even get close to those numbers, because he knows that just 2%, 2.1% going over to Bob Casey would be, the end of his campaign completely. And just looking at the approval ratings, yes, Bob Casey has a 43% approval rating, but the president isn't higher than him, and his disapproval rating is way higher. And if we take a look at the results of the Republican primary in 2012, we don't see a unified GOP either, and that's a telltale sign when there isn't a unified GOP candidate against an incumbent Democrat in a blue wave year, when we have Democrats on the ballot, and especially in a state like Pennsylvania, which recently redistricted because of gerrymandering. Everything favors the Democrats in the state of Pennsylvania. Approval ratings, primary turnout, opinion polls, the way people vote, the 2016 election results, believe it or not, even though Trump won there, it was by such a narrow margin, and then you compare it to 2012 and 2008, and there's literally no comparison. Let me see if I can actually change it to 2008. It probably won't. Oh, okay. Yeah, it did. 54% to 44%. Okay, John McCain came to the state multiple times trying to win, and he lost. And Barack Obama clearly did a lot better than previous Democrats in this state. So a state goes from 10% for the Democrats to narrowing a little bit down, but still a considerable lead, to narrowly going to the Republicans. It's probably not going to continue that trend. In a state that recently has to redistrict, in a state with a blue wave, an impending blue wave, with that congressional district, the 18th congressional district special election pointing towards a Democratic wave in 2018. All of these things are pointing towards a Democratic win, and especially with poll numbers like this, approval rating numbers like this, there's absolutely no way Bob Casey is losing this seat unless something drastic happens, like something happened with Roy Moore, which is probably not going to happen. Be honest with yourself. This state is, first of all, not targeted by the GOP, which means they already know they're going to lose this race. Lou Barletta is probably not the best GOP candidate, but he was one of the only GOP candidates who ran. And keep in mind, a popular incumbent typically doesn't lose, especially when the opposing party is favored to lose seats. So, again, I just recapped like 4 times, but we're going to recap again. So, again, final takeaway, Bob Casey wins the Senate election in Pennsylvania in 2018. So, thank you guys for watching this video. I'm probably going to do the Illinois governor race next, but I'm going to wait until June 5th when a whole bunch of primaries come in, and we're going to see so many more states be decided, and we're going to see how many more states will either go to the Democrats or the GOP, and that's going to be a whole lot of fun. So I'm also going to be covering some primaries, so probably the June 5th primaries I may or may not live stream. I may actually use that new theme that I've decided to use and actually make projections with or before the news media does, so that'll be pretty interesting. And if you guys want to tune in, you can tune in, of course, but probably next Tuesday, I believe. Yeah, next Tuesday. So, again, thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I'll see you all tomorrow.